Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Today is Monday, January 29th, and this is the Cosmetology and Barber Examiners Board meeting, and we are going to get started with the Legal Committee, and I will turn it over to the attorney, Pamela Spicer. It's all yours.
Good morning, everyone.
Hey, Pam.
Hello.
I know you all received the legal report in advance, and you see that number 37 is marked for discussion, so I know that we need to talk about that one.
Are there any others you wanted to talk about?
No, I don't have any that I need to discuss other than the last one.
I just had one question,
Okay.
and it had to do with two cases. The first is case 18 on page 6. And the other
Okay.
is similar. Let me see if I can find it. Is 35? 35. Or similar. Maybe not 35. It had to do with the license being expired, which I know is a $100 fine.
Correct.
But then in this case, especially, or on 18, the other one, 18, the unlicensed individual is also the manager.
Correct.
Is that why it's an additional $500?
Correct on both of those.
Okay.
Yep.
I just wanted to clarify that that was why.
Yes.
Thank you.
And let me know when you all are ready to discuss 37.
Go ahead. Case number 20. It says that they're alleging an out-of-state school. Have we noted that one for reciprocity? I'm worried about, that we make a note of that school name so that if we're receiving reciprocity from that school.
Without a doubt. It has been very hairy for us. So, yes, what we are doing is until the investigation is complete, we are not accepting those hours at all. So those individuals are getting a letter that says the school in Georgia is under investigation, and until it is complete, we cannot accept the hours. We're keeping a running list of those reciprocal, and mostly those students are actually coming to test in Tennessee because we have the availability of testing in 2 other languages. They're leaving Georgia to come and test here. I have spoken to the investigator, and we've gone back and forth a few times. And so we may not have a report for another 2 to 3 months. Once we do, we will then conclude and go back to all those individuals either with a definite, this is denied because the investigation proved this. And then this would be the individual's license, I believe, that also was part of the allegation.
Georgia not offer the test?
They do not.
I mean,
actually
in other
spoke
languages?
to their state board, and I don't think they have any intentions either. So they're impacted by this because a lot of their students are coming here for the 2 languages we've approved. So,
Case 36, was this person just advertising for services, or how are they promoting that? Do you know?
When I reviewed the complaint, we don't have probably enough proof for me to go forward. And based on the fact that now it appears I can't find the individual, in other words, and I don't know that he was advertising or he was just saying, I'm going to barber school. So I feel like it would be basically impossible to go forward with litigation on this particular one. But I do think since he's in barber school, a letter of instruction is appropriate in case he was attempting to advertise something, like he was going to provide a service.
And you got 36 out of the way.
37 is a school. They do have some significant history They have similar violations in the past, specifically in 2005. There was broken equipment. In 2015, they were also cited for sanitary violations. No hot water, no running water. At that time, they received a $2,000 civil penalty. So here's where we are now. The inspector went back out in August of 2017, found that, the workstations were missing, shampoo bowl and sanitary trash overflowing, no door in the restroom, and mattress in the classroom. We have photographs. Obviously, we need to assess a civil penalty, but I thought it would be better marked for discussion to decide what that civil penalty should be. We can obviously cite $500 for each violation, or we can cite more because they've already received one $2,000 civil penalty back in 2015.
Shut it down?
Well, that is probably what could also be discussed. They do have a significant history of similar violations. The board could obviously vote to revoke their school license. I would have to obviously have a hearing on that, but that could be the recommendation. Or we can increase the civil penalty to $4,000, do $1,000 per each violation. I do want you all to know that the school did not respond to the allegations.
They've already paid $2,000, and they'll probably just pay the $4,000 and move the mattress from the classroom to the bathroom with the no door on it. I think we got enough of that in this industry that if we permit this, we're promoting it. I'm going to recommend we shut it down.
I agree.
So the recommendation is to revoke the school license.
Based on this information and it being a second, look, we all make mistakes and need second chances. They got that. And,
Correct.
I think they totally disrespected the industry and the board itself. And I don't think that's a mistake. I think that's just an out-and-out non-care that way. And if they're going to do it that way, I don't think it should be under our supervision.
And again, that's why I wanted to mark it for discussion, because I don't know how many students.
That'll be an important consideration, is how many students that are going to be affected, and paperwork otherwise in order in case those students have to.
And their hours and paperwork is in order. I don't think it's a school with a large population of students, but nevertheless, if it's licensed by us, tomorrow that could change and they could have 20 sign up or 30. And so I think the no door and the mattress in the school that you're pointing out to really opens up an entire area of concern.
That's somebody's children going to that school. And if that's the kind of environment they're being put in, I wouldn't want to be associated with it. For the welfare of the public, not just me personally.
Let me say this as well. If the board votes to revoke today, obviously I still have to go forward with a hearing, which means they continue to operate until such time that we have the hearing. Or if the board deems that there is a health, safety, welfare issue, I can notify them of a summary suspension. We would have to have a hearing as well on the summary suspension, but that obviously, that track moves a lot faster than a revocation hearing.
I would just say that I think this is, even if it's our recommendation, we would bring it to the complete board today, right? Later.
Yes, yes.
And then I would just go with council's recommendation
Okay.
at that point.
Has anyone been back since August? I mean, they continue to be open for an additional 6 months.
Correct, not that I know of. I don't have any information that an inspector has been back.
Any complaints from their students?
Not that I have. So that,
They're kind of willingly going along with the program, however it is. Okay.
I think I'm even more in favor of putting the school on suspension immediately and getting more information, especially if they haven't responded to any of this.
Yes, and usually the schools do respond. So I did think it was important to bring this for discussion and let you all know that they did not respond to the complaint.
A lack of response kind of indicates that they really don't care, don't have the respect for their business or for the requirements.
What happens to the students either?
Well, and as this is part of the field inspection, that means that it isn't that you missed something in the mail, right? It's the field inspectors leaving you with a notice that this inspection did not go well. There were a lot of things found here and repeated things, and the inspector's note of very unsanitary is kind of a step further than just a concern for unsanitary.
And while sometimes sanitary could be subjective, there are specific violations noted in this complaint. So what we can do is bring it to the full board for discussion and a vote on. My concern is the school would continue to operate now. I guess your point was they have been operating since August, and we don't have any information. There's been no new complaints filed. But with a revocation, it could be a few months before I could have a hearing before an administrative law judge on a revocation. It could even be 6 months. Right now, we only have dates through the 1st of March, and I have to give so much notice to the school. A summary suspension could obviously be heard a lot faster. And then we could still proceed forward with a revocation later. So I think that the recommendation probably should be, if we are concerned about the sanitation of the school and the other violations, to go forward with a summary suspension and then set it for revocation at a later date.
My concern, I think, is the same as everyone has mentioned, that they've already been through this once. And while I understand everyone is able to make mistakes, and certainly we all do, making them again and again is not okay.
Correct.
Don't have anything else?
It's almost 9:15, then we will adjourn, and the full meeting will start at 10 o'clock. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
This meeting of the State Board of Cosmetology Barber Examiners is called to order. We will start this morning by having a roll call.
Thank you and good morning. We will start. Ms. Kelly Barger. Present. Mr. Jimmy Boyd.
Present.
Ms. Anita Charlton.
Present.
Thank you. Ms. Nina Coppinger.
Present.
Mr. Frank Gambusa.
Here.
Mr. Ron Gillihan.
Here.
Ms. Brenda Graham.
Here.
Ms. Yvette Granger.
Here.
Ms. Judy McAllister.
Present.
Ms. Patricia Richmond.
Present.
Ms. Becky Russell.
Here.
Ms. Mona Sappenfield.
Here.
And Ms. Amy Tanksley.
Present.
Thank you. We have everyone present, 3 telephonically.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Whenever we start a meeting, we always try to begin by acknowledging our guests and our visitors. We want to say thank you all to everybody who came in today. We appreciate you being here and taking part in the meetings. I believe we have at least one school, maybe a couple represented here today. Can someone from each school stand up and introduce your school and tell us where you came from? Thank you for being here. Yes, sir. Thank you for coming out today. Yes, sir. Welcome to you. The next order of business is to approve the December 11th, 2017 meeting minutes. Are there any additions or corrections or deletions? Do we have a motion to approve?
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second from Ms. Brenda Graham to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. Ms. Roxana, we're ready to adopt the Roberts rules, I believe, on the agenda.
Thank you, sir. I believe so. Being that this is the first meeting in 2018, we have two orders of business that we need to do each year. The first one being adopting to follow Robert's Rule of Order. If there are any questions, I know Ms. Sherrill will be happy to answer them. Otherwise, we would need a motion to continue.
Make a motion to continue Robert's Rules of Order.
Second.
We have a second. Frank, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries.
Thank you. The next order of business is to elect a chair and a vice chair. This is pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 62-4-105 within the Cosmetology and Barber statute. It applies to both of those, and so we will entertain a motion either for one or both, and then we would go through and vote on that, and if we need to go through a second time and so forth, that's how we would proceed. So at this time, we would entertain a motion for chair and vice chair.
Next question, the current sitting chair and current sitting vice chair are both eligible for a second term?
That is correct. There's no limit in the statute.
Okay.
Hearing that, I'm of the opinion, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Got it. Second.
So I nominate Kelly Barger as vice chair and Ron Gillihan as chair.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion to continue with the appointments as they are, with Mr. Ron Gillihan as chair and Ms. Kelly Barger as vice chair. And I will go through roll call and we will vote on that. Thank you. Ms. Kelly Barger?
Abstain.
Mr. Jimmy Boyd? Ms. Anita Charlton?
Yes.
Ms. Nina Coppinger?
Yes.
Mr. Frank Ambusa?
Yes.
Mr. Ron Gillihan?
Abstain.
Ms. Brenda Graham?
Yes.
Ms. Wybette Granger?
Yes.
Ms.
need
Judy
to vote,
McAllister?
Yes.
Ms. Patricia Richmond?
Yes.
Ms. Becky Russell? Ms. Mona Sappenfield?
Yes.
And Ms. Amy Tanksley?
Yes.
All voted on and in agreement, so we will continue again, and congratulations with our chair and vice chair.
Thank you, folks.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. The next order of business is the legislative updates.
Thank you. So it is the 2018 legislative session. We have gotten started, and so far there are two bills, and I will turn it over to Ms. Sherrill Hooper to explain them both to you. One is on your iPads, and the second one I printed in paper form. We'll go through both, open it up if you have any questions, and if not, then we will continue. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. The first bill I want to talk about this morning is House Bill 1483 and Senate Bill 1888. And that bill creates a new continuing education requirement that applies to everyone, master barbers, barber technicians, cosmetologists, estheticians, manicurists, and natural hairstylists. This bill requires such persons to complete 5 hours of continuing education biennially as a prerequisite for renewal. It would also require that a barber technician who has let their registration lapse for more than 1 year provide proof of continuing education, even though they must retest. Curriculum is to be determined by the board through rules. And for rulemaking purposes, this would go into effect upon becoming law. For all other purposes, it would take effect on July 1st, 2018, and it relates to renewals occurring on or after July 1st, 2020. At this time, this bill has just been filed for introduction. There are some concerns about the additional burdens that this rule would create that this bill could potentially create upon the licensees. I will continue to update you all on the status of this particular bill. Did you all have any questions? That's House Bill 1483, Senate Bill 1888. Representative Staples.
Who's the Senate sponsor?
Not sure. I don't have that information with me.
It's continuing ed for cosmetologists and barbers.
Yes, it would be 5 hours every other year that all of the licensees under the jurisdiction of this board would need to submit in order to get renewed.
5 hours every other year.
Yes.
And we don't have anything in place yet for them to take, right?
Well, right now, only our instructors are required to get the CE, so there's nothing being offered for CE for licensees right now, I guess, other than people who just want to go get additional education on their own, but there are no requirements in place.
So we as a board would have to approve what would be acceptable for those hours, right?
Yes.
And it might be something that's already in place, maybe? I don't know.
Not for the individual crafts, just for the instructors. But that would bring up another question, I guess, because an instructor is also a cosmetologist, barber as well. Is that an additional burden on them, or do their normal requirements satisfy that as well?
Because we're using the word burden, but it's 5 hours in 2 years. I'm not sure that's a burden as much as it is a smart criteria.
Oh, I would be in favor of.
Yeah, as I would be.
Absolutely.
I teach in most states at conventions, and there's a lot of states where I have to stay on after the class is over and sign CE certificates and all. So if we don't have a current criteria of what is going to qualify as CE hours, that's probably the whole chat in itself, is it not?
Once it made its way through and was approved through the legislature, then we'd have to probably go through rulemaking, I guess. And then
So
determine
trade shows and seminars and classes like that, then is YouTube going to be considered CEs? Because that's probably what's going to come up.
That's exactly.
I'm not saying it to be funny. I just think it's going to be a real topic.
Somebody mentioned to me recently that they thought it was kind of odd that, like somebody maybe that had their cosmetology license for 30 years, they've never been required for any continuing ed. And I thought, that's interesting too. So I guess ironing out the logistics,
I'm not sure 2.5 hours a year is going to change a whole lot of that, though.
Well, at this time, it's been filed for introduction. We can definitely keep watching it and updating you all on the status of the bill, and you all have the information, so you definitely are able to track it online on the Tennessee State Legislature website. So definitely appreciate you all listening to this particular update. The next update.
Before we leave that, can I just add one thought?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Licensure is pretty much under attack nationwide. And, the word burden, although 5 hours isn't a burden, I don't think, for 2 years' time, I think the whole idea of more red tape towards having a license or continuing to have a license, while licensure is under attack because of many reasons, right? And it seems to be gaining traction and moving forward. Does this not lend to just that much more red tape? I mean, we haven't had it for forever. Now, adding more red tape to this, or does that maybe secure up the fact that why licenses are important, as opposed to it? This is brand new. I haven't really thought through it, but I think it's something we should consider as a board. Does that make it stronger of why we need licenses and licenses shouldn't go away? Or does that make it more red tape of more to govern and more to deal with, which is when they're looking at the cost of doing business and what it takes to retain licenses? Is that argument strengthen it one way and weaken it the other? And that, I think we just need to really look at that, because that's probably what we're going to be dealing with.
I think that was my thought. It's kind of ironic that they're throwing in, a greater stipulation or requirement when they're trying to go the opposite way. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
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 And again, I think you can argue it either way.
Yeah.
That that's the reason why it needs to stay in place, because it is that much more of a profession, versus the trade of we never had to have it before. But the other side's going to argue that is there's more red tape. Right. So I think we got to be prepared either way.
Okay. If there's nothing else on this particular bill, I will move forward to House Bill 1809. This bill combines the disciplines of barbering and cosmetology by eliminating licenses under the barbering discipline and creating uniform cosmetology/barbering licenses for individual licensees, shops, and schools. This bill deregulates natural hairstyling by eliminating the requirement for a license to perform natural hairstyling services and eliminating the requirement for specialized shops and schools to be licensed. For rulemaking purposes, this bill takes effect upon becoming law. For all other purposes, this bill takes effect on January 1st, 2019. And that's House Bill 1809.
So this is basically two lumped together. The combining of cosmetology and barber license and the deregulation of natural hairstyle. It's all lumped into this one?
On the same bill.
Yes. That bill is on your iPads, I believe. Yes. It's a lengthy bill. It's 19 pages. So it's been filed for introduction. It's a departmental bill. Certainly you have it in your emails also. So you're free to read over it and digest that.
Is it that long because of changing the language in each section?
It opens up several sections to change it, make sure they're combined. Any section that natural hair is going away, we're talking shops, schools, individuals. That's the reason it is 19 pages. Yes.
Are these two bills at the same stage and that they've just been introduced?
One of them, one I talked about previously, has been assigned to a subcommittee in the House. This House Bill 1809, it's just been filed for introduction. It's a departmental bill at its initial stages. Essentially, it just creates uniformity by combining cosmetology and barbering licenses for licensee shops and schools. So if there's nothing further, I will turn it back over to Roxana to go over a couple of changes in ownership for schools.
Thank you. We have first appearing before you a change of ownership with Paul Mitchell, the school. It's actually 3 licenses. If you give me a minute, I will point you to the right page. We start on page 22 on your iPads, and I will ask Mr. Kevin Johnson to come up to answer any questions, if you could. Speak if you'll make sure that's right. Just a minute.
Oh, Mr. Johnson, thank you for coming up today.
There.
Appreciate you being here.
You have here 3 separate school licenses. 2 of these licenses are for the school located in Knoxville. That school has a cosmetology as well as a barber school application for a change of, so it would be a change of ownership for both of those. That particular barber school had not gotten inspected yet, the one in Knoxville, and of course we need the 15 contracts for either of these to be finalized. But they are applying to change both of those licenses, and then also the school located in Murfreesboro. The curriculum, business license information application, and the fee have all been received timely. They are on your iPads for review. And with the change of ownership, if the board is in agreement with all 3 requests, we would have a field inspector go, but not necessarily a board member.
I'm sorry, did the Murfreesboro School, is it a barber as well, or just?
It is just a cosmetology.
Okay. No contract changes or anything like that? Okay.
Just one point to note as you're looking at that, our entities for each school are not changing. It's just the people. Some of the percentages are changing. So the corporate entity is not a change there.
Okay.
It's just in our makeup of the ownership group.
Corporate name stays the same, all that.
Absolutely.
Have any other questions? Roxana, do we need to vote on these individually, or do you want them together?
However you prefer. If we want to treat them differently as far as the inspection, they'd have to be one by one. Otherwise, we can vote on all three. We're talking about Knoxville having 2 separate licenses, one cosmetology, one barber, and then Murfreesboro cosmetology school license.
Make a motion that we approve the change of ownership for all.
For all, yes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the change of ownership for all of these. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Say no. My eyes carry.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, Frank abstains. Okay, congratulations.
You are on page 47. Our next change of school is also change of ownership. This is Miller Mott in Chattanooga, and Mr. Jay Frank is the campus director. If you'll give me a moment.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, Mr. Frank.
Morning.
This application is before you. It also has the business license, floor plan, enrollment agreement, curriculum, the application fee, all received timely. And again, if the board has no concerns with the inspection by a field inspector, we would be able to send the new license.
It's the same as the previous, no changes to the campus or
That's correct.
just an
That's
ownership.
the ownership group, all the support, curriculum, the school name, everything is staying the same.
How long has has Miller Mott been at that location on Lee Highway?
Our current location since 2015.
Okay, all right. I'd like to make a motion to accept the change of ownership.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the change of ownership. Any other questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
On Ms. Patricia, Ms. Granger, and Ms. Charlton, are you all still with us?
Yes.
Okay, all in agreement?
Yes.
Thank you.
Noes? All in favor say aye. I'm
Aye.
sorry, excuse me.
Aye.
All in favor?
Motion carries. I apologize.
You're good. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Next, we have a new specialty school. This is on page 68. Before you, we have the Institute for Braiding and Natural Hair. Ms. Tamisha Effinger is appearing before the board. She has presented a business plan, floor plan, enrollment agreement, curriculum, also the 5 contracts as the statute requires. This school is a total of 1,120 square feet, and the school is located in Memphis. If you give me just a minute, let me make sure she's got. Just make sure it's on.
Morning. Thank you for coming in.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
You don't intend to keep all of these practical students in-house? You're going to do the apprentice with them?
I have a practical floor, and I can do apprentice as well.
Is this one of the licenses that may be going away?
Yes.
Yes, that is correct.
But not for a long time, even if it.
It's a year.
Okay.
Are you going to be an instructor there?
I have an instructor currently.
Are you an instructor too?
I'm in instructor school.
Okay.
Just about done.
Okay. Is there somebody that you could rely on as a substitute in the event you needed one?
Yes.
Okay.
So if we approve this specialty school and she's up and running, and then the license for this goes away January of next year, there won't be a need for the school, right? I'm just trying to.
So I believe, since we don't know when this will all go into law and how it stands, she would definitely still be able to operate. We just wouldn't need to license the school. And Sherelle will correct me if I'm wrong.
I'm just looking out for you. I don't know. I'm trying to.
Now, she and I did speak briefly this morning because sometimes the bills are complicated to wrap your heads around. But shops, individuals, and schools, of course, have still their business plan and can continue. Individuals will very likely still want to attend or need to learn and grow, and so but the licensing part will change, so she would need to renew the school.
So you're well aware of the bill.
And she won't be inspected and all that, so she'll just continue her school.
Right. The minute something is not regulated any longer, we would not have the right to inspect and so forth or ask them to renew.
So basically, the school will still be able to operate in this manner that it's starting off with. It just will not be, the license will not be renewed, but she'll still be able to carry on. But if she get approved today, she can go on and open up and start with the school, right?
That is correct. And this is Ms. Granger for the record?
This is Ms. Granger.
Yeah, Ms. Wyvette Granger, you are correct. If approved, the school would be inspected now, get their license, everything as normal, and then when or how the bill passes, if it passes, then that at that point becomes the change in the law, but she can definitely continue operating.
Is there some kind of safety net for the students that would enroll, that they would understand that they would be taking a class and curriculum and they're not going to be licensed? And unless they finished up before the new law got into effect, I mean, I just feel like the students, I mean, is there going to be like in part of the written entry, I mean, like the contract, yes, we're offering this course currently, it is licensed, but it will inevitably not even be licensed. So I just think we need to be kind of honest about that to people who are going to pay money for something that they feel like is going to be include licensure.
I noticed that you do have a refund policy in there, so I like to see that. And I think what Mona is really trying to get to is if a student comes and enrolls in your school with an expectation, let's say they enroll in December, and again, remember, we don't want to get the cart before the horse. We're talking about legislation that has not passed yet. So if they're enrolling late in the program when they may be affected by a change, that they have some kind of notice. Now, I don't know that we can require that from you because it's not in the statute or the rule, but it might be a good business idea to do that so that you don't have students filing complaints later on.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll have to have a whole new committee for that.
Yeah.
Right, because they could ask for their money back if they were not aware of it. Right.
Is this Ms. Richmond?
This is Miss, Patty,
Yes.
I'm sorry.
If you are not here, if you could state your name as you speak so we can make sure. But yes, Ms. Richmond, I think we have you on the record as yes, they could ask for their money back.
Right, okay.
Would you have some kind of bond that you could guarantee that they would all get their money back? I mean, that's
If you'll look on page 77 at the bottom,
Okay.
she has a good statement about refunds.
Okay.
And I just want to point out for the record, even assuming the bill becomes law, the students are still getting something of value, which is their education. And so there wouldn't necessarily, under the law, well, first, the board wouldn't be involved, but under the law, the odds of the school being responsible wholly for full refunds when they've provided something of value are unlikely.
Okay, good. Well, this is Miss Richmond again, and I would make a motion to approve her.
This is Yvette Granger. I second that.
We have a motion and a second to approve the program. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations and good luck with your school.
Thank you.
So in this particular case, because it is a new school, we will be sending a field inspector and board member. Is that correct? Or would the board be comfortable with just a field inspector?
This is Patricia Richmond. I'd be comfortable with just a field inspector.
Okay with just a field inspector? Okay. No board. Got an approved school with a field inspector, and as soon as they're ready, they will let me know. Thank you. On your presentation, we have 2 continuing education sessions that are being requested. On page 80, we have the first one with Mr. Thomas James. If you'll give me just a minute, I will make sure that he's available. Press that if they've got any questions.
Awesome, thank you.
Good morning, Mr. James. Good to see you this morning. Folks, for full disclosure, I need to let you know that Thomas is an employee of mine in my school. I need to say, though, that this program that he is submitting today is his work product completely. It has nothing to do with my school. This is his entity. I will abstain from the voting. But I do welcome you down here, and thank you for coming and taking this big step.
Thank you, sir.
If I could interrupt us for a minute, on the 3 board members that are participating telephonically, if you could put us on mute, there's an echoing effect apparently, and since we stream live, definitely if you have a question, then do come on board, but that'll help us with the recording, and I thank you immensely. We have on your iPads the information regarding Mr. Thomas's request. It is a 2-day continuing education. This, of course, are the sessions that we currently approve for our instructors' teaching methodology. I think one of the items that we will probably need, just so that those that decide to take it know how to request it, is maybe a name to the session, just how to list it. Right now, we have continuing education, and it's Mr. Thomas James. Is there a name that you've given this session?
No, ma'am, other than just a continuing education seminar, but I can create a name.
Okay. So I'll let the board review, and then if it is approved, we'll make sure to list it on and add it to what's on the website currently.
I just have a question about alcohol and drug abuse awareness and bullying, harassment, and inappropriate relationships as listed as part of the curriculum. Will you have someone from the Justice Department teaching these classes, or the Criminal Department, or a social worker, or will this be a burden on someone who's like a cosmetology instructor?
Ma'am, for the alcohol and drug abuse, I'll have someone from there's a rehabilitation center in Brentwood. I have a representative from there.
They are a social worker, or what kind of credentialing would they have?
As far as credentials, the person's name is James Hicks. As far as what his official title is, right now it slips my mind. I know that he has been at that rehabilitation center working with those that have issues, so to speak, on alcohol as well as drug-related problems. I was going to have him either come physically, or if he were able to Skype or just send some information for that. I didn't feel as though a cosmetology or barber instructor this isn't their expertise, so I didn't want one of them to come in and take over that portion.
I've sat in health meetings with the committee meetings with the legislature, with the House of Representatives, and there is a conflict with these facilities with getting involved in furthering education. So you really need to be aware of that, because you're going to have to find some credentialed people to teach this. This is a really big issue.
Yes, ma'am, I understand. But as far as finding the personnel to do so, that wouldn't be a problem for me. I have a pretty wide networking base, so that I would not put someone that is underqualified to do anything part of my program as far as the alcohol and drug abuse. For the bullying, harassment, and inappropriate, I just felt as though that topic, again, not saying that I would be the expertise here, but with so much that is going on in the news, and then it being such a gray line as far as what is appropriate, what is not appropriate, people who feel as though what they're doing is completely harmless, and then finding years later that it is a big problem and that someone was harmed. I feel as though that us as fellow instructors, and some being school owners, should be able to provide a peaceful and fair environment for students and increasing their ability to learn. So that would be my reason for placing that into the program. But I definitely do have someone.
Well, there are a lot of discussions in the legislature on whether these programs should be run by faith-based or actually credentialed individuals. And so I just want you to be aware that there is a huge, and the direction of those discussions that I've heard, this wouldn't really be approved by the law if these things going through based on who can do these, if they're medical, faith-based.
Well, I did want to take the whole faith-based education part out, because I know everyone does not believe in the same higher power, and some do not believe at all. So I did not want to put anything faith-based into this. I wanted to make it completely fair. The only thing that toes the line as far as being faith-based is the 12-step program, which is Christ-based. But other than that, nothing else in this entire program has anything to do with religion.
I admire you for taking all of this on, but it is a huge discussion. I just hate for you to make the effort and then find out you really aren't qualified to do this.
If we look at his objectives in some of the breakdowns, a lot of the things are just defining some of the items. So maybe it's just making aware and then offering I guess information on where help can be found. That's what's listed in his objective. So I think that's a really good way to approach it.
I have a question. I think you have some great ideas for continuing ed, but as far as a board, do we have everything in front of us that we need to approve a continuing ed? Because I know the one I've been involved in through University of Tennessee, they're very detailed about who's going to be teaching. We get to look at all that. I don't know I can't remember what the rule or the law says about what we have to see to approve.
So the statute's actually pretty broad. It says it must be 16 hours, which his is. It has to be teaching methodology, and his includes that. He has to give us the roster with the license information from the instructor's social or preferably license number. And so we communicate that always. I start our conversations by letting them know to go to the website and read the statute, which is really that simple. It doesn't say at all what they must present to us, which is, again, one of the reasons that he might have not picked a name necessarily. I'm just recommending that so that the instructors know how to pick it. But really it is giving us the date, making sure that they are going to be in compliance with having everyone fill in an evaluation. That's in the statute. Providing us the names of those that completed. And then it leaves the business opportunity kind of open for them. The board has historically liked seeing the breakdown of the 2 days. And so that is in front of you. He's asking for 2 separate dates. The Nashville session would be held March 11th and 12th. And then he would be going to, and that one's in Old Hickory. And then in June on the 17th and 18th, it would be in Johnson City. And so those dates don't clash with any of our other continuing education sessions, but the statute does leave it pretty open for them to
to go through. And it's my understanding that Mr. Thomas James doesn't intend to publish the second and third pages other than the agenda online for individuals to pick from. But this gives us and the board a good explanation of what he's wanting to cover in those subjects. So back to your answer, I think some of the sessions, which is a great thing, give us all the information because they prepare it a long time in advance. They've got actual departments in their university that do continuing education, so they're a little bit different. The smaller sessions, of course, generally are getting fewer instructors and a lot focus on more networking and smaller groups.
So I guess just by looking at what's in front of us, we can see that there's probably great ideas for continuing ed, but the unknowns, like who exactly is going to be teaching it and their background, and like Mona was asking, who's going to be teaching and what's their background and all that, those unknowns, we'll just have to, if we do approve this, then we'll have to wait and see how the evaluations look when they come back in and see if it was really worthwhile for continuing ed. That's the only way we'll know at this point, I guess. And
the medical board is fighting these types of programs. I mean, they have introduced several bills last year I listened to, the year before I listened to, and they've been shot down pretty much unless physicians run these programs, and they're holding on to that turf. I'm just letting you know.
No, ma'am, I fully understand, and thank you for that. But as Vice Chairman Barger pointed out, one thing that I'm trying to do here is just bring awareness to certain issues that are causing much harm amongst just people. As far as the roster is concerned, as Director Gamuccio pointed out, it did not say that I needed that, or I definitely would have brought that with me. As far as personnel and who will be teaching what, if you would like, I will gladly present that to you. If you all would like that in an email, I can give that. But no, ma'am, I just didn't know. I just brought as she had pointed out, the teaching methodologies and the dates and the schedule. I knew that was needed.
You did what we required. I'm the one that didn't know exactly what you had because I've seen more details from other, continuing ed. So you did what you're supposed to do. Yeah.
But yes, ma'am. The social worker that I have in mind, I do have a family member who is a doctor. She will be able to talk more about the bullying and the harassment, and she is a social worker. She received her doctorate, from Trevecca, which I can have her point that out. As far as the alcohol and drug abuse, I'll have a representative from the Rehabilitation Center in Brentwood. The teaching methodologies, I feel as though that I could be able to handle that. Other issues that are pertaining just primarily to the classrooms, I feel as though that I would be able to burden that. But the CPR and the things that really touch base as far as just harming one another that a social worker would need to talk about, I don't want to step in those shoes. So I have someone else to do that for me.
Well, I look forward to seeing the evaluations from this, and I'd like to make a recommendation that we approve this continuing ed and wish him luck and hope that it goes well.
I'll second it and wish you luck. I mean, it's needed.
We have a motion and a second to approve this continuing ed program. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. And I abstain. Okay. Congratulations. Good luck.
If I could point out, since we're kind of at this stage, I did print the 2018 sessions to pass around. If you are able to attend any of them, if you'll sign your name, only one board member can attend a session, and we tend to pick the one closest to us so there's no travel involved. I will add this one, and if the following is approved as well, so that a board member can go, and anytime I'm able to go, and so far I think it's to all of them, I will also definitely take part. That way we can report back to the board.
I'll be happy to attend either one of these sessions.
Sign in on either one of those, or that would be great. Okay, so next on our agenda is a also continuing education class, and this starts on page 83 on your agendas. This is Ms. Amira Jones, and she's here before you. If you give me just a minute.
Said that wrong.
Thank you. And this is continued education being offered as part of the Professional School of Beauty. They've been licensed in our state since 2016. The school is located in Memphis. They are requesting 2 separate dates for sessions. The first one is May 20th and 21st, and the second one is August 20th and 21st. I will let you review her agenda, which is those 3 pages. And she did Sunday, I believe, emailed me a change to the agenda. Again, by then your iPads are loaded. I'm usually not at work on Sunday, so you've got before you what was presented. Last I could update the iPads, but she does have information that's been revised slightly. So,
Morning. Thank you for coming. I didn't see you get up there yet. I apologize.
Thank you for having me.
That's a question I'm curious. Per the state law, Roxanne, is there any information about who can teach these, or it's just whatever's approved?
it's up to the board. So there's few limits, which means that the board can decide what they request. So far, we've always requested that the agenda include the dates, include the location, make sure that we're not clashing dates. I also ask that they not be on board meeting dates. That way, a board member can attend. In the past, we've sometimes approved it tentatively for just one session so that a board member can make sure it's being done right. And we can do that, not approve both dates. It's up to you. I will almost always, unless it's clashing with something else, also attend. So what the material is or who's teaching it, our statute doesn't say it has to be somebody, it's always been somebody with an instructor's license, right, that can definitely answer questions and so forth. But we're not locked in stone as to who you can approve or deny. And so if the presentation makes sense and there's a need.
Sorry.
I was just saying on the state laws and regulations, it's not necessarily teaching. It's just kind of reviewing the things that have changed, keeping the instructors abreast of, like, for example, the new bill with the natural hair, going over some statutes and things that have changed that they may not be aware of in the previous year, not necessarily teaching a state law course.
I don't want to do that either. Nina, to your point, it's great to see what you've assigned, who's going to be teaching. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions?
Both of these sessions that you're wanting to do, are they both in Memphis?
Yes, ma'am.
At the same
location.
Your topics are really good and relevant to what students need to learn, or I guess instructors need to teach their students.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on now to our applications to test. You have before you applications for examination for Dewan Bogan, Derek Lane, and Torin Marshall. These applicants have felonies within the last 3 years or are currently incarcerated. The request is for them to take the Tennessee examination. They have submitted for the board's review a letter regarding the felony, as well as a letter recommendation from the school. On master barbers, applicants may be denied if the felony affects the work that they are about to perform in the industry. This board, however, agrees to always do agreed orders for a probationary period of 2 years. And so we've never actually followed with that permission to deny. If the board is okay, we will do the same and do probationary orders for the 2-year period. I will let you review the letters and let me know if there are any concerns.
Roxana, did these three complete the program inside?
Yes.
Okay.
They're all, none of these three completed at the school that is listed there, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Questions on these?
I make a motion to approve with the signed agreed order and the 2-year probationary period.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve these with a signed agreed order and 2-year probationary period. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have an application also to test for a license. This is Ms. Ann Wing. This is a manicurist with hours from World Nail School in Vietnam. Her evaluation was submitted to Acro International, and they have verified school information. Therefore, the recommendation would be that she be approved to test.
Motion to approve her to test.
We have a motion and a second to approve this international applicant to test. Both tests, all in favor say aye.
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 Noes? Motion carries.
Thank you. We are going to moving on your iPads is the reciprocity applications, which are 7. If the board is okay, would we be inclined to change and jump back to the legal report to take advantage of Ms. Pamela Spicer being here?
Sure.
Would that be okay? Okay. I will turn it over to her in a minute. Your legal report, if you just press down on anywhere on the document, your library should pop up, and it is a separate presentation. I believe we're mostly discussing one case, but I will turn it over to her and the board to finalize that.
As you all are reviewing the legal report, the subcommittee met this morning. All of the recommendations were approved. On number 37, we need to have some additional discussion because during the break I went upstairs, did some additional research, and would recommend, as it relates to this complaint, that we proceed with revocation. There is another complaint outstanding that has not been presented to the board, so my recommendation would be to move for revocation on this particular complaint, number 37. On the new complaint, send that out for investigation, and if we determine there is an immediate threat of harm, then we can move forward with a summary suspension on the new complaint.
We had looked at this morning, and the question came up as to public safety and health concerns. It's whether it be in the interest of the public to either revoke this license at this time, which is a process that's going to take a little bit longer to actually have, versus the summary suspension, which is a more immediate thing that we can get it closed down. Since we have the second complaint upstairs, I believe what you're saying is it would be better to go ahead with the revocation potentially at this stage and then the suspension to the next.
Correct. As it relates to this particular complaint, this school has a history. As you can see from the complaint history, they have been assessed a $2,000 civil penalty in the past. There was discussion in the subcommittee about whether or not increasing a civil penalty would really get their attention or fix the problem, because they continue to have similar problems. So obviously the board's option is to increase the civil penalty. You could do a $4,000 civil penalty. You could move for revocation. And then there was some discussion about how long is that going to take. If we move for revocation, that could take a few months before that's heard by an administrative law judge. I was also asked if there were any additional complaints. I've now gone upstairs and checked. There is another complaint outstanding that has not been presented to the board. So based on that, I think as it relates to this complaint, to resolve this complaint, the recommendation should be revocation. Allow the new complaint to run its course with an investigation. And then at that time, if we need to, we can move for summary suspension based on the new complaint. It makes the most sense procedurally to handle it that way. And the revocation is obviously based on the history, continuing allegations that are very similar.
Have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Ms. Spicer, do you want us to have two separate motions for this particular case and then the entire legal report, or how would you like to handle
I think
that?
you can do it as one motion to approve the legal report with the recommendation on number 37 being revocation.
I would like to make a motion to approve the legal report with the changes to case 37 that we are recommending revocation of this school license.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. If there is no further questions, all in favor say aye.
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 Say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much. Okay. And if anyone needs to break, I'll be happy to stop us, but otherwise we're on to reciprocity. And we have a few applicants that are here for the reciprocal applicants. So what I will do is go through the information. If they've got any questions, they know to kind of stop me, but I think for the most part you have everything in front of you. Our first applicant for reciprocity is an esthetician with a license from New York. This is Ms. Jani Baha. The certification shows an initial licensure in March of 2012 with 75 hours and a written examination. This license is as a waxer. The curriculum and the number of hours, of course, are low compared to what an esthetician would be allowed to do in the state of Tennessee. Her experience, however, working since 2012, should consider at least toward the general hours, and so I'll let the board look at her documentation and come up with the number of hours that you see fit for the aesthetics program.
He's only been licensed to wax?
That is correct. That license is just for waxing.
Only comparable license we have is the aesthetics.
Closest would be the aesthetics. That is correct.
Oh, no, that's 600 hours, correct?
750.
750.
Unless they do the apprenticeship program, and then it is 750, but then it's.
I took into account the general hours, and again, she does have work experience. It would just be in that type of service. But the general hours might drop her to close to 600.
to not have her do the entire program.
Such an increment of the aesthetics curriculum that I couldn't see where we could approve someone with just minimal hours.
This is Patricia Richmond. How many hours does she have?
75.
Okay.
10% of what's needed.
Plus work experience, but only in waxing, not all the other things that go along with aesthetics.
To grant her would open the door to all the other items.
I mean, how many hours do you think? Does she need the whole 750?
Yeah.
I would make a motion to deny this request. And she would need to take the full curriculum. Yeah.
If I could interrupt, the motion is to deny reciprocity, but we need to give them some guidance, right? So is it she needs 750 hours?
She would need 750 hours.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to deny reciprocity and require the full training program.
Did we not give her credit for the 75 hours she has?
It's Patricia. I think that's up to each school to either accept them or not. Is that not right?
If she was applying within the school to continue, they would be able to accept general hours. However, if the board submits a letter that says that they are denied reciprocity and need 750 hours, I don't know that a school would go against that.
Okay.
She's been working since 2012. That's the only thing, I guess, that...
It's continuous work.
Yeah. Well, again, we don't, we assume she's gotten a license on March 29th of 2012. She took the written exam in 2010. In New York, based on the written exam, you can work. And so in a shop, she would have learned some basic waxing, but also some of the general hours just from being in a salon between 2010 all the way to now.
Yeah. So she really hasn't even learned her sanitation and all that.
Should, just from working, but there's...
We would
totally
have to assume a lot of things in New York. I can promise you that. So,
how long does it take to get 75 hours?
75 hours.
Frank, you don't have to come to
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I just still stick with. I think she needs the entire curriculum.
We do have a motion, and who made the second?
Me.
Okay, got a motion and a second to deny the reciprocity and require the full course. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no.
No.
Motion carries.
And I apologize. We have one denial. Who was that?
That was me.
Oh, thank you, Amy.
But I understand they know more about this than I do. Is there a way to enclose that this is a state licensing discrepancy? I mean, clearly there's nothing that we offer that...
She knows that. We've had the conversations. There's nothing closed. And I think on a couple of states we have the hair styling license that's just hair, and we run into the same situation there. But at least it's a little bit more hours, and usually they do go to school for the remaining piece so they can learn the other items that are being tested. Here we've got, again, work experience since 2010 potentially. But
want to be a waxer, the aesthetics program is the program that has the fewest amount of hours and covers
waxing. That is correct. Okay, so I have the motion to deny and send her a letter for all of the hours, 750 hours are to be completed. Next, you have an application for reciprocity of a manicurist license from West Virginia. This license is for Ms. Krista Lee Bolliard. The certification shows an initial license in May of 2015 with 400 hours and both exams. Ms. Bolliard has provided a letter from her employer stating that she worked in the industry between 2013 and November of 2017. That letter's on page 112 on your iPads. She has provided a copy of her work permit from February 2013, and in the state of West Virginia, she would have been able to work with that work permit. So my recommendation is that she be approved for reciprocity.
Make a motion to approve for reciprocity.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve for reciprocity. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, you have an application for reciprocity for a cosmetology license from Florida for Renee Lynn Clausen. Ms. Clausen is here before the board if we have any questions. You have before you a certification which shows an initial license issued in March of 2012 with 1,200 hours and no practical exam in Florida. That license, turn to it, shows it expired on October 31st of 2013. We would just need to make sure that it's active, obviously. She has a Tennessee aesthetics license that she obtained in January of 2012, and that was by completing all the necessary requirements. She has provided also on page 123 a copy of the additional 156 hours that she completed within the cosmetology industry in 2016. And she's wanting, again, that full cosmetology license. She has emailed a full summary, and that is on page 120 regarding her education in the state. And so my recommendation is to approve reciprocity as long as we have an active license. And that it may be there, I just don't have it in our records.
I would make a motion to approve it as long as you can find your active license. That way.
Second.
What was her experience again?
She has an aesthetics license in Tennessee. And then her license in Florida is a cosmetology license issued in 2012. Cosmetology in Florida is 1,200 hours, a theory exam, and no practical.
I know the no practical is like stuck in my mind. She's wanting to speak, I think.
Yes.
Information is wrong. I actually was licensed as a nail technician in Florida originally in 1998. Then I went back to school for cosmetology, the full course, for 1999. I let my license go when I moved up here and was pregnant, so I kind of let my license go. I believe it was 2003 or 2004. I did it in 2012 to have an active license while I was going through this. I've been trying to go through this process for about 2 years. I have about 5 years work experience in Florida, but my employers would not give me anything that said I worked there. They were worried. Our boards aren't the same, so they had the different form down there than up here. And another that, I'm a Tennessee esthetician now for since whatever my license is, 2010.
So for clarity, how many total hours?
I went to 1,200 down there. I did the nails, which I know is separate. I also, when I came up here, they allowed me to do 150 for my aesthetic license towards that. I also went back to school for 150 more hours, so I do have 1,500 hours total. Give them all the information and but they've lost my paperwork 3 times.
Okay, so my only question is, do you have an active license?
Yes, I have an active license in Florida for cosmetology and nail tech, and a Tennessee active license for esthetician up here.
The only question I think here is the cosmetology. I'll just have to make sure that I have it.
Anytime, like on the reciprocity committee, anytime we see a missing exam, it's kind of a red flag to us. So she's missing the practical exam, but does experience make up for that? That's the only thing I would.
I did do a practical in Florida, but they do not do the same practical as you guys. They do a written practical.
You had a recommendation?
My recommendation was reciprocity, as long as I can confirm that she has an active license in Florida.
Okay. So we could possibly make a motion to approve, subject to.
We have a motion.
And a second.
And a second.
Oh, excuse me.
We have a motion and a second to approve pending verification of the hours. And is that correct?
The active license.
The
I
active
think that's
license,
the only
pardon me.
thing, if the board's okay with that.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Good luck to you.
You can go to work when she gets it verified.
Thank you. Next, you have an application for reciprocity of a manicurist license from Florida for Tho Quoc Do. The certification shows initial licensure in October of 2015 with 240 hours and no exams. Mr. Doe is also licensed in North Carolina since 2002 by Reciprocity from Florida, and that license expired in 2017. He's explained that he was originally licensed in Florida in 2002. However, upon not renewing, that license date would change. We would need to reflect a current license in Florida. The one in North Carolina has also expired. He has provided work experience for the last 5 years. However, tax records for 2012 and 2013 reflect work in Tennessee. He was previously sent a letter by the board office when it looked like what he was missing is work experience and the hours. And in that letter, the recommendation and the board's decision, of course, was that he would still be missing the 2 exams. So at this point, I will let the board review everything he has. He has not taken either of those exams and is asking reconsideration for at least one, if not both.
You said his Florida license is expired and the North Carolina as well?
As of right now, yes, I show both licenses expiring. The Department of Licensing for Florida has his license there expiring in 2016. The North Carolina just expired October of 2017. So we will need to make sure that he renews one of those. He's gone back and forth. Like I said, the tax records, the fact that 2 of those years were Tennessee, there's a lot of communication. So unfortunately, he's been at this for a while. And I hate that the license expired. Hopefully it would be easy to approve or for him to renew. He's asking reconsideration for the exams as well.
He wants reciprocity, but we've already looked at this once and required that he take both exams, correct?
The office has. The board has not, because if the exams are missing on a Florida applicant, and that's where he started out, the board office asks for proof of experience, which he was able to submit. There was a little bit of a concern for the 2 years in Tennessee, but he submitted proof of experience, and so the board office sent him a letter requiring both exams. This is the first time that he's coming before the full board. So he doesn't have the exams, but however, he's practiced in 2 different states.
But does the board office still stand with that recommendation?
My recommendation was at least a practical. He's not had either one.
I have a question. Thank you, Mona. On page 136, since he's asking for the Barber course, I believe, for reciprocity. Am I looking at the right one?
No, this one's manicuring. It ends on page 134.
Okay, excuse me. Pardon me. I'll take that back, erase, rub it out. Okay. So he has 2 expired licenses at this point. He wants reciprocity and no test.
I have a question. Has anyone from the office talked to him about his 2 years work experience in Tennessee without a license?
Yes. And generally there's not much of a response. They're already, living here. So.
Right. I just didn't know if he had
we do, and that is part of the delay, I think. And I know that he has also reached outside of the board office to ask for assistance to work. So I know we need to get him working legally soon. That's the only reason that I went for at least the practical safeguards the public and we get him working. The experience in the 2 states, obviously, I think show enough work experience since 2002 for the hours. He does not have both exams, but is desperate to get to work.
I think I'd like to see him at least take the law portion, because if he's working in the state of Tennessee without a license, I'm not sure that he fully understands the law.
So the only concern with that, and I get that, and maybe as we look at rules, if different statutes, different laws pass, and we look at rules, maybe the reciprocal piece can look at it a little bit differently. The theory and law exam obviously is difficult because it's the full 100 questions. The law alone is the reinstatement exam, and the issue with that would be that the practical comes kind of behind it. If we break apart the way the exams are, we're kind of at a manual process to test people. That's not to say that we can't, but we veered away from doing it that way because then when folks leave after taking the law, they don't know what to do next because the process would be always to take the practical after it, right? So the board, with that in mind, has normally done the practical, thinking that at least then we are safeguarding the public and they know how to do all the steps.
I will say that in order to be eligible for reciprocity, his work experience needs to be lawful. And if he was working in Tennessee without a license, that experience could not be counted towards consideration of reciprocity. If he has 2 expired licenses, he also does not meet the requirement for reciprocity.
He would have to present an active license no matter what. The concern is he's been going at this since the beginning of October, I think. Waiting on it isn't getting us far since we had a meeting. If he presents it, we can consider whatever else the board decides. That's the minimum requirement.
So if he were to be able to present a valid license, and the board decided that he needed to take a test, both tests, some test, then reciprocity could be a factor.
The quickest for him just to schedule the tests, right? Rather than wait to send in information and come before us.
I think we could give Roxana the discretion that whenever she receives the necessary items to go ahead and release him to do that, if it was the board's ability to grant reciprocity. So,
I'm still thinking he needs both tests. That's just my thought. Sorry about the holdup, but
Sounds like the board office has already said that, and now it's being presented for you all to make a final decision on that because the board office has been going back and forth with this individual for a couple of months on this issue.
Because he doesn't want to take the test.
That appears to be correct.
I'll make a motion that he take both tests.
Second.
we have a motion that he be required to take both portions of the exam. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
And we have him, he first and foremost does need one active license.
Yes.
And then both exams, and so there's no change, and that is perfectly fine. Next, you have an application for reciprocity of a master barber license. This license is from Oklahoma for Ms. Jewel Larinaga, and Ms. Larinaga is appearing before the board. If you have any additional questions, she decided to come out and meet you all. You have before you her certification from Oklahoma that shows an initial licensure in October of 1999. I believe, and this is on page 137, that there is a mistype. There's a digit missing there, but from what we were able to see, that looked accurate. She has 1,500 hours and both exams. She's appearing before the board with a question regarding, and that license is now active. You can see that on page 138. So she was kind enough and got me everything else we could present before you. The situation is that she did not complete high school, as is the requirement for barbering. She is currently enrolled in high school. She has provided the course of classes. She's not wanting to do the GED or HISET. She's actually wanting her high school diploma and has great plans with it. So she, I think, as Sherelle and I have reviewed, has completed her requirements for reciprocity, and under that statute, this board can grant her reciprocity. My recommendation is that we do so.
He was licensed in another state, which did not necessarily require that at the time. So
that is correct. It's an 8th grade education, and of course, we didn't require it for a long time as well until recently. And so with that in mind, she's been working on her high school, not only for barbering, but for future goals, and she's been phenomenal to talk to, frankly.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this application. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Good luck to you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good luck. Thank you for coming in today, too.
Yes.
Thank you. Next you have, and this is our last reciprocity application. This is a cosmetology application from Puerto Rico for Ms. Blasig Mercado. I believe Ms. Mercado is also here. You have certification that was provided confirming licensure. Unfortunately, I was unable to confirm this particular license number. Puerto Rico has her licensed under 23526. The certification says she did 1,000 hours within the cosmetology discipline. I believe most, if not all of the board is aware that I'm able to look at these because we did have a situation with these licenses from Puerto Rico. So the number does not on their website pertain to her. However, you have before you Ms. Sonia Lopez, who I've spoken with, emailed with. She does work for Puerto Rico, and she confirms through email that Ms. Mercado has completed the 1,200 hours. We have a transcript as well. The transcript is on page 148 that shows the breakdown of the hours completed in 2005. She has provided an affidavit of work experience, and that is on page 149 that shows also the 1,260 hours work since 2005. So my recommendation at this time would be to take the 2 exams.
Make a motion that she take both exams.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to have this applicant take both exams. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries. Congratulations.
Next, we have application for reciprocity, and this is the last one. I apologize. This is a manicurist license from Kentucky for Tai A. Nguyen. The certification shows an initial licensure of September 2007 with 600 hours and both exams. If you look on the certification from Kentucky, you can see under the comments that these hours were transferred, 525 of them from Georgia. That is the reason that this is presented before you. Currently, Tennessee has a pending investigation with the school in Georgia that this transcript came from. However, this shows that the hours were obtained in 2006, and the transcript is on page 154, and that was before this ongoing investigation. Therefore, my recommendation would be to approve reciprocity.
Has he been licensed since 2006?
He has been licensed in September of 2007 in Kentucky. Kentucky, up until recently, accepted hours as long as the transcript met their requirements and tested everyone. Now they've moved a little bit closer to what we do with reciprocity and don't have everyone test. But in this particular time, this individual definitely did, and it's before the investigation we have going on now.
Make a motion to accept reciprocity.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept reciprocity. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. And that is our reciprocity. Is the board okay to continue? Would you like to take a quick break?
It is...
Maybe it's just me.
10 minutes?
Yeah, it's 11:20. Why don't we try to be back about 11:35? 11:35.
11:35. Thank you. 15-minute break. Thank you very much.
Like we're down the agenda, so.
You don't need a charger?
That's it.
Look, I bought something new for us to use.
You did.
Thank you. And we are back on the record. We are now on your miscellaneous items. And starting on page 155, I'll let everybody get on to their pages. And
The first thing we have is our requests for instructors for waiver or extension of continuing education. The first one you have is an extension request for Master Barber instructor Teresa Parker. Pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 62-3-124, an instructor must complete 16 hours of approved training. It's at the board's discretion to approve up to 1 additional year extension for good cause. Ms. Parker has provided an email explaining that her son passed away in April of 2015. She has just now refocused back on her career and her profession. She should have attended a session as of December of 2016. So I will let the board review this, and if okay, we will give her the extension through 2018.
Motion we give her the extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant the extension. Any questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we have a request also for an extension of continuing education from an esthetician instructor, Ms. Destiny Lawson. Pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 62-4-113, an instructor must complete the 16 hours of approved training. It is at the board's discretion to approve up to 1 additional year for good cause. Ms. Lawson does not expire until May of 2018. She has provided an email explaining her plans to attend. She had plans to attend the online session and suffered a miscarriage, and therefore she would not be able to attend the sessions scheduled for the beginning of the year because of the driving requirements. That is the reason for her request. She is planning on attending the session close to her, which is the one in Knoxville.
She has not already had an extension.
No, she has not.
Make a motion that we grant her the one-time exception. Extension, excuse me.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Who's that on the phone?
Patricia Parsons.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. And next you have before you a request for reconsideration of continuing education requirements. This is for an inactive esthetician instructor, Ms. Pamela Green. Pursuant to Tennessee Code Annotated 62-4-114B, an instructor must complete the 16 hours of approved training program in order to change a license from inactive status to active. Ms. Green is requesting to go from inactive. Ms. Green requested to go inactive in December of 2016. The last time she attended an approved session was in August of 2014. She has the opportunity to start teaching now and has stated that she would like to go back to active as quickly as possible because of this opportunity. Unfortunately, there is no online course for this year. As with any other instructor that is inactive, that statute does not allow them to go back to active until they can complete a session. There is a session approved in April and the one approved today. There's a date for May as well as one for March. And so at this point, if she doesn't want to wait till the summer, she's got a couple of other options. But I don't know that the board can waive this request and allow an inactive instructor to go to active.
Until after she completes the continuing ed.
Correct.
Is that our motion that we granting her an extension, or we're just saying that she has to take
the statute? And I wrote it almost word for word. It says that a change in license from inactive status to active requires the completion of the 16 hours. Whereas for a renewal of a license, you could ask for the extension. This one's a little bit different, where Ms. Green was upset, and I understand. It's that she's got a job opportunity and would like to accept it and count other, and she has done other continuing education kind of things, just not the ones approved by the board. And so she definitely wanted the board to consider it, and I told her we would. In the past, when we only had 3 sessions in the summer, that did hold back licensees ready to go to active. It's just one of those situations when you place your license on inactive status, getting back to active is pending on this requirement.
Well, I'd say our hands are tied. So first opportunity she can do this is March the 11th. And I just think she needs to do her continuing ed hours first, and then it can be reinstated.
Back to active,
Yeah,
yes.
the active license.
I make a motion for her to attend the class and then be reinstated.
Second.
Parsons.
We have a motion and a second to require the attendance in the class prior to reinstatement. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. The next set of items for miscellaneous are kind of lumped together. This is an extension request for continuing education for 13 individuals, and I will list their names. These are the instructors who had made plans to attend the online session with Expertise Consulting, EDU, which was not approved for the 2018 session. These licensees will expire and not be able to teach without this extension granted to them. The board opened this up for discussion at the December meeting, and the decision at that time was to extend all these individuals the request for so that they could take the next available session and not stop them from having to teach. We did want to see letters on each of those individuals, and that is presented before you. With the board's permission, the 16-hour extension then would be granted pursuant to Tennessee Code 62-4-114 and 62-3-124. They would complete the 16 hours within 2018 and then, of course, have to complete it again for their next renewal cycle. And but in the meantime, they would be able to continue with their instructors' jobs wherever those may be. These individuals are Ms. Tanya Schwartz, Ms. Destiny Cox, Tracy Nolan, Ebony McCollins, Tiffany Curry, Evan Taylor, Danielle Posser, Dawn Tonley, Linda Palmer, Shantae Hassam, April Ramsey, Gina James, and Michelle Stedman.
You're granting them the extension.
Correct, and what the board had discussed in December also was that this wouldn't count against them, whether they had the 1 year request as well or not. This would be granted, and then when they complete 2018, they will almost back to back have to complete another session for their actual renewal cycle for the following year.
They would have been on the 17-19 rotation.
Make a motion to approve this additional extension.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve this extension. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. We will send a letter to each of these individuals letting them know that they have to do it in 2018. And we may have a few more that couldn't get in March and expire in March and haven't sent it to us. Our plan, however, is for those that thought or wanted to take the online that have a date available with a session available is to have them attend that session, especially if we've just now approved a few more. Hopefully that won't be an inconvenience with, being too far in expense. Those would be the only ones brought before the board.
Should we make a motion to grant you that ability to do that if they come in after this?
That is up. Yeah, that is up to the board.
Sounds like you.
Okay.
Okay, I make a motion to give you the authority to parallel those decisions for any similar situations that come in after today.
Second.
You've heard the motion and the second. Is there any other question, discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, we are now on to the financial information. You have before you on your iPads on page 191 the financial report through November of 2017. As you can see, there's a total of $115,789 still in reserve for that fiscal year. And so I think that is well in line now with what hopefully we will be seeing. The only change that I wanted to bring before the board and explain is the distribution of legal expenses. Costbacks, which include administration and then, of course, legal fees have changed. The legal part now is, as of December, going to be billed to us based on actual hours.
And so where before we were billed by number of licensees and number of complaints, the attorneys, bless them, are keeping track of their time, and that's how we will be expensed. I think for this program, we'll see a reduction possibly in legal fees. We will see. Our number of complaints have gone down, so we've seen that. So it'll be interesting to see the impact with that. And you also have before you just the latest civil fees that we've collected. And so if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer.
And we don't need a motion to accept this since it's just a report, correct?
That is correct.
Further business?
We have nothing under new business, which I know everyone will be happy to hear, at least for this meeting. So I've got nothing else. I don't believe Ms. Hooper does either. So
I'll remind everybody about your forms to complete for conflicts of interest and so forth. The schedule for the classes going around. It's already over there. Okay. If there's nothing else to come before the board, I would entertain a motion.
all right.
Yeah, baby.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
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 Carries.
You know, whenever it's after 4 o'clock, I put seconds at the same time.
Y'all have a good day.
Right outside.
Thank you so much.